I'm Emily, and this is Luke, my son, and he has Mobius syndrome, which is how a lot of you have know me. And recently he got a new vent. He changed from the LTV 1150 to the Trilogy 100, and we absolutely love it. So I wanted to make this video to show you guys some of the differences and why we love it so much. And we're going to start with the LTV here, and it is really heavy. It weighs about 19 pounds. I just weighed it, and it's a hefty piece of equipment. Whereas Luke's new Trilogy, I think, weighs more in the 12 to 14 pounds. I didn't weigh this one, I realized, before the video. So that's one main difference, is we're lugging around a lot less equipment. And the LTV with this battery pack has about 5.5 hours worth of life. The battery packs, there's 2 batteries in here, and that's 5 hours, and then there's about a half an hour, depending on what settings you have on, internal in the vent. Whereas the Trilogy 100 has an internal and an external battery that you can take out. The internal battery is 3 hours, and the battery you can take out is 3 hours. So it is 6 hours right here, and then you can easily slip a battery in and out of it. And so I'm going to turn it around and show you. This battery is just right here. I'm not sure what will happen when we take it out right now, but we're going to give it a try. Maybe we'll take Luke off it, and I'll show you this battery. So one thing about this, it's really easy to turn on and off. So I just push the power button and say yes, and I'm going to unhook Luke so that he can breathe through just his trach, and he's okay. Don't worry, he's safe like that. But so the battery in the back here, you just pull it out like this, and here's the battery. That's 3 hours worth of life. It's pretty low, as you can see. And we have another one of these, so we can just put it in, and so we can have 9 hours on this machine not plugged in to the car, to an outlet, to anything. So I'm going to put, whoopsie, and I didn't put it in. It needs to click all the way in to make it work. And I'm still not doing well. Here we go. Okay, do I have it? Let's make sure. Okay, I think we're good to go now. So I'm going to turn around. So battery life is a big thing. This guy has, please don't put that in your mouth, a lot more battery life for a lot less of a unit. So this guy, we're going to turn it on. I'm going to show you how loud it is, because the Trilogy is a lot softer than the LTV. And to turn it on, I have to hold this button down. Makes loud, obnoxious noises. And especially when you transfer vents, and you can hear it maybe already. Insane patient, and we're just going to use an artificial lung. And now I'm going to let it alarm and hear the lung. And how loud it is, that was just incredible. So I'm going to turn it off now. And we have to hold it down for a long amount of time. And then silence it, and then push the silence button after it's off. So it's loud. It makes a lot of really loud noises when it's off, which are a good thing, that when it's off your son or daughter, you really want to know. And that's kind of nice, though I could have heard that at a lot lower decibel, in my opinion. And so this one, so that's turning on and off. I mean, you have to hold it to turn off and on. And for us personally, we went from his bedside vent to a travel vent all the time. We put, he sleeps on a vent on the bedside, and we change it up when he wakes up, and we go downstairs, and we go to school, and we go around the community. So we do turn it on and off a couple times, and sometimes when we're switching, he's sleeping, or when he falls asleep, and it's kind of annoying to have that much beeping going on when you're trying to keep a child asleep. So I'm going to turn this guy back on and show you how easy it is. No holding down buttons, just one button. That was the extent of it. And it turns on right away, and it's kind of beeping. And here, that's its alarm. Doo-doo. And then this one, the alarms, and you turn it off real fast, as you saw me before, just to push the button, and then a confirmation, no loud beeping you have to silence. So that's another good distinction. And this one, when they do have alarms, they're all up on the screen. They all come up, so you can see what time they happened, if you weren't right there, if you were running to them, or if you didn't realize, something happened. And then you can just push the reset button, and it goes all and resets itself at the end. And here this is, yeah, can I see my list? Just a second. So that's another good thing. one thing, if you see this LTV, this is the wires, and there's tubing, there's 2 pieces of tubing, and this is they have an active vent for the Trilogy that has more tubing, but it sounds like, from what I've heard, most kids are what we're on is this just 1 tube, the Trilogy passive vent. So, but we went from this, with all of these tubes and stuff here. We have 2 tubes, wires, we have little connectors, and this, as you can imagine, gets tangled up between legs and arms, and at night there's even an added gray wire, and each of them have the added gray wire, but added to all this, there's 1 more wire, and Luke has actually very dangerously pulled this trach out, getting his legs caught in these things. So our night vent, we always had to make sure, because it kind of fell off, that everything was clipped so that he couldn't get his feet in there and actually, turn one way and his foot goes the other, and it just pulls the whole vent and trach right off. So, whereas the Trilogy has 1 nice circuit, it's just 1 tubing, it's really sturdy so far, it has been, and it has this, what makes it quieter is this whisper valve. So the exhalation valve, there's no separate inhalation and exhalation tubes like this one has. This one, the exhalation valve is down here, and ours is farther up, but still much quieter. And otherwise, we have the same kind of connections up here, just a little different models of things. And putting it together, excuse me, is a lot simpler, and knowing that your circuit's all attached right, as you just have the 1 tube, your bacteria filter, a connector in this. Whereas here, I have my bacteria filter and connectors, but I also have 3 extra sensor tubes that make it so you have to check to make sure sometimes when things are going wrong, those are tied in, they're tight enough, they're pushed in, they're screwed in, all tight enough. And so those are some things. And then carrying it. So this laptop vent, you carry it by its handle. It's really awkward, and like if you set it down, it falls over, and so you have to lean it against something or be prepared to set it down flat, and it's heavy and it falls, and then it's, to pick it up, it's all like, the weight on it's all wrong. It's got this big battery pack on it, and so it makes it kind of awkward to hold, and it's big and it up against your side, and it can really like take out a small child if you're not. I think I've taken out my 3-year-old with it when I've been carrying it and she's been running around. I haven't been paying enough attention. Whereas here, this Trilogy, I put it underneath the wrong side. It goes under this way. The Trilogy, as you can see, as it's sitting here, it sits by itself. Pick it up and just put it down. It's smaller. It's not as heavy. So in the way it's made, it doesn't bang around as much on my side. I might stand up and show you these, even though you're not going to get my head. But so this one just is really nicely rests, and because it has 1 tube, it's easier to just hold on to that tube and to keep it out of, getting caught somewhere. And then here, this LTV, it's a lot heavier, and it bounces around, and we actually, some of the things we've had this is not even its strap, we had to redo its strap because the case isn't that great, and it's so heavy on the points that aren't really good points for it to be heavy on. Yeah, and then I'm leaning it against the wall, because what else do you do with it? So another really cool thing I like about the LTV, or the Trilogy, is that in the case, if you open it up, its power cord is very simple. It's just, you have just 1 little cord, and it's connected kind of down here, or maybe over there, and then you just plug it in. It's really simple, it's easy, it's small, it makes a little beep to let you know they plugged it in, and it says, here we go, it tells you when things are charging up. Then the LTV has this long cord, which sometimes is helpful, but it's got this big brick in the center. And dragging this around floors, wherever you are, and it's heavy, and it's just not fun to carry around and to have on the floor, especially we've had ours plugged in and want to have Luke in the playroom, and then you're dragging this brick around with you and not just a cord. So I like that the plug-in is smaller. Another thing I like about the LTV is the screen. On this screen, it's showing me his breath rate, the volume, his pressure, all of those things you're measuring with every breath. It shows me on one screen. And then, as you see, when it's been silent for when nobody's touched it for 5 minutes, it will go black. We have it so it just shows our breath bar here. Yep. Oh, and Yeah, and if you're doing the breasts. So that's really nice at night and in dark areas, that it's not, you know, you push a button and it comes light again, but it does give a darker room to sleep in. And I like that it has everything on one screen. It's not easy to change. You have to go into a menu, push a couple buttons at the exact right times kind of thing to change the settings, which is really nice because then you're not afraid that somebody is just going to come along and change them. That my child, who learned to change the settings on the LTV, even when locked, we had a hard lock it, and I'm sure that he could have figured it out in not too long if we hadn't. Also, the silence button I like. You push it once, it shows you that it's silenced right here, and I guess the one negative is you can't shut the silence off. So if you were done with it and you wanted to walk away, you have to wait until that silence turns off before you walk away from your child that's on the vent. That's the only thing I can think of as a negative. Is this one here, if we want to see all of these settings, we have to select through, and it just shows it up on this little board here. And you scroll through the settings. So if you're looking kind of at an overall picture, it's harder to do that all at once. And to change it, you're just pushing these buttons on the front and turning around this wheel, which you can lock it, which is nice, and you can lock it pretty nicely. But changing things is a lot easier on these vents than over here. So, if I could have my list, please, Luke. Thank you. I was going to see if I had... Also, the Trilogy doesn't have as many alarms. The LTV, probably because it has this circuit with a lot, maybe an active circuit, a lot more sensors, it alarms for things when he turns over at night, or when he sighs, when he gets really excited and, oh my gosh, kind of, kids get excited, they're kids, and it'll alarm. And at night, if you can think about rolling over and sighing and big sighing breaths, and he does a lot of that, he tosses and turns in his bed, he moves quite a bit, and it, I think at times can keep him up, because it is beeping so often. He's just trying to get to sleep and move to a different position, but it beeps every time he moves. So that can be a problem. He also was using the beeping, though, the high pressure beeping, to call nurses or us to his aid, sometimes not in a good way, when he wouldn't want to go to sleep. And so now he kind of, I think he just disattaches it. As one night for me when we were in the hospital, he just started disattaching it to get it to beep off. So he learned really quickly how to make it beep in order to get our attention if he needed it, and it wasn't an emergency. This one's quieter, not as many alarms, but it alarms very nicely when it comes off. When things are wrong, it will alarm. Let's see. Oh, and also the filter, there's two filters on this guy over here. The oxygen port is over here, and there's two filters, and if it's in a case, it's really hard to get the filters out, and there's two of them, and this one has fallen out a couple times, and it's not like the best filter situation. This Trilogy, in the case, I can just pick the filter right out, take it out to clean it, maybe pick the filter right out. One little filter is all, you put it back, and so it's really easy to use. The oxygen comes in back here through a little adapter. We don't have oxygen on this one. He only needs oxygen at night. But, so the oxygen's is a similar setup. Let me see, I'm just going to check my list here. And I think that's about it. For the difference in these vents, to get the changeover, we did need to go to the hospital and stay over for one night. They said possibly two if they didn't get good information they needed to make changes to settings. So what they did is take the settings from the LTV and put them as close as they could on the Trilogy, and then they just basically watched him and monitored his oxygen, CO2, heart rate, and kind of just how he was doing for a whole day, overnight. And the next morning they did a blood gas to see what his CO2 levels were and make sure things were all okay before they said they would let us go. His were great. He had a CO2 end title right up in his inline, monitoring him as well, and so we could see that things were going really well. And what they would do, sometimes they give you a second night if they wanted to adjust some settings, because they want to make sure nights are going as good as days are going. And so it went really well for us, and it was a very smooth trip.